Welcome, everyone. I'm Griffin, your host today. Today, we are excited to walk you through 5 powerful landing page tactics you can start testing today to boost your conversions. We'll keep this fast-paced and actionable with live page reviews towards the end and a Q&A. A few housekeeping items before we get started. Please, if you have any questions throughout this webinar, submit them in the Q&A window. And as mentioned, we'll have a dedicated section to answer them at the end. We will also be sending out a recording and a copy of today's deck via email early next week. Now I want to introduce you to your speaker, Michelle Barnes.
Thank you, Griffin. A quick introduction to who I am. My passion is helping businesses develop winning marketing plans that deliver measurable results. I started my digital marketing career about 13 years ago on the pre-click side, but over the last 9 or so years, I've really been focused and honed in on the post-click experience to help optimize and improve campaign performance. But let's go ahead and get into the meat of today's webinar. Today, here's a quick look at what we'll cover. First, we'll ground ourselves in why testing your landing pages is so critical. Then we'll dig into 5 test-worthy tactics that you can apply right away. After that, we'll shift over into live landing page reviews, looking at real submissions from some of you here today. And then finally, we'll close with a quick Q&A and a quick recap of actionable takeaways. So let's go ahead and get into it. Why does testing your landing pages matter? Landing page optimization isn't about guessing, it's about learning. Whether you're aiming to drive signups, sales, or demo requests, small changes like a word in a CTA or the placement of your social proof can significantly impact conversion rates. Today, we'll show you 5 tactics to test on your landing pages that can help move the needle and improve performance. The first of these is headline clarity. Your headline is one of the first things that visitors will see when landing on your page. They decide in seconds whether your page is relevant. In order to improve conversion rates, test headlines that truly showcase the value that you're offering. First, test clarity over cleverness. Benefit-focused headlines that communicate exactly what the value your product or service provides will perform better than one that might leave the visitor guessing, what does that mean? So here's a side-by-side example. When the headline states something like, reimagine your workflow, what does that mean to a visitor? It's vague and it requires the visitor to determine the value that you're offering. However, reduce admin time by 40% with one simple tool clearly states to the visitor what the value the tool brings to the workflow, which is a reduction in time, which equals an increase in efficiency. And we've all heard the phrase, time is money. So by reducing time to complete a task, you're also reducing cost. The next tactic is subheadline and value proposition. So when a visitor lands on your page, you have literal seconds to make the case for them to stay. According to Nielsen Norman, most people spend between 10 and 20 seconds deciding whether or not they want to stay on your page. Once the headline grabs them, the headline needs to answer the question, why should I care? Various tactics can work, but it's important to test to determine what resonates with different audiences. Test variations of emotional hooks versus practical benefits. No More Sunday Night Stress plays on the emotional benefit of reducing the visitor stress level, where automate 5 hours a week of admin provides a quantifiable, measurable benefit. Both could work, but it's important to test to take the guesswork out of it. Next, CTA copy. A strong CTA will guide your visitor to action, and numerous studies alongside my own testing has shown that first-person calls to action tend to convert better. They personalize the message and give the visitor a sense of ownership over their decision. An often underused opportunity is featuring a pre or a post CTA. You can use them to add microcopy that helps reduce friction. From pre-CTA examples, add context and remove perceived obstacles and help boost confidence. The post-CTA examples add reassurance to build trust and perceived risks. Finally, testing urgency or exclusivity play on loss aversion, also known as FOMO. That may add just enough motivation for the visitor to act. Overall, the CTA is more than just a button. It's your final path for persuasion, and it's important to test and make sure that it's working for you. Now, our 4th item is social proof placement. Trust is one of your biggest barriers to conversion, especially if you're asking someone to spend money or provide their personal information. According to Nielsen, 92% of customers trust peer recommendations over branded messaging. So what your customers say about you matters more than what you say about you. But there's several ways to approach and test social proof. First, test the type of social proof. Some pages do really well with client logos, especially if they're recognizable or relatable. For example, if you're targeting small to medium businesses, but showcase a corporate giant as one of your customer logos, test to make sure that it's effective. But also test logos against emotionally relatable testimonials. Perfect reviews are not always the best. 4 stars and misspellings can increase trust that the reviews are real and less curated. You can also test star ratings, case study quotes, or even short customer video clips. Next, test the placement. Should it be near the top to build trust early, or should it sit beside your CTA to reduce hesitation at the point of decision? In some A/B tests, moving the testimonial closer to the form increased conversion rates by up to 15 to 20%. Finally, consider quantity. One powerful testimonial from a relatable customer might work better than a wall of reviews that only share a few kind words. Curate reviews that are personalized to the topic on your page and address the pain points you're trying to solve for. Overall, your goal is to reassure, relate, and reinforce the value you're offering, but the only way to know what works best is to test and learn. So now we're going to kind of take a quick break before we go into the next one and have a quick quiz for you. So taking a look at this image, the question is, which circle did you see first? So Griffin, if you can go ahead and launch that. And we'll just give it a few seconds for you to start selecting. All right. We should have a good volume by now. So if you want to go ahead and share the results. So overall, we see the number one answer is blue, and your eye was most likely drawn to the blue circle, sometimes the brighter orange one, and this is what we call visual hierarchy. So visual hierarchy, it controls where the visitor's eye go and what gets seen and acted on. If your page is cluttered visually, confusing, or buries the CTA, even great messaging won't convert. So first, test your CTA visibility. Is it above the fold? Does it follow the visitor as they scroll? A sticky CTA or button that reappears after scrolling can keep the next step always within reach. You can test the CTA above the fold versus placed lower, sticky versus static CTAs, and then the CTA size, contrast, and proximity to key benefit statements. Next, test the layout style. 3 common formats are modular, where you have blocks of information, which is good for skimmers and mobile viewers. Narrative, which is a storytelling style with a persuasive arc. It's great for high involvement decisions that require more research to understand a product or a service. Or single column, which is a minimalist layout that can feel direct and help reduce distractions. Test these styles to see which help visitors stay engaged and reach the CTA faster. Also, test the content density. Some audiences respond better to lightweight pages with just a few key benefits, while others want more in-depth information, FAQs, comparison charts, and use cases. Tools like heat maps and scroll maps can help you identify if people are abandoning before they reach long content or reach your CTA. Finally, test the visual focal point when the page loads. What pulls the attention first? I like to use the blur test to do this by taking a screenshot of your landing page and blurring it to about 40%. You can see which elements stand out the most. Visual hierarchy isn't just about looks, it's about guiding behavior, and that means every visual decision should support the conversion goal. So in this example where you have the item blurred out, you can see that the blue really takes up the most space. And even though we do have larger green and yellow circles, they kind of fade into the background and the orange stands out a little bit more. So visual hierarchy is important in guiding that visitor along to different points on the page. Now that we've gone over these 5 tactics, let's shift to our live page reviews. We'll walk through a few submissions and point out strengths and opportunities and test ideas. During this, I'd like you to use this time to reflect on your own pages and what might be worth testing. The first one that we're going to review, if I can get this to work, is our Virtue Recovery Center Rehab Center. So I'm going to scroll through the page so you can see the different elements of this. So a lot of great information on here. And I will say that this page does really well in hitting a lot of the points of what we discussed on there. But I'm going to go ahead and work through the page based on those 5 tactics that we went over. So first, looking at the headline. So here we see Oregon's #1 alcohol and drug rehab. And when I see this, aside from being #1, why do visitors want to choose Virtual Recovery Center? So experts in the subhead might be a motivator, but I would recommend testing a headline that really targets an emotional response. For example, we could shift this to a pre-headline, so we still state that, Oregon's #1 drug and rehab center, an alcohol rehab center. But then what is an emotional motivator for the visitors? So I would suggest testing something like start your recovery in a safe and compassionate environment. If you think about a person who's maybe making a decision to go through rehab, they want to know that they're going to be around people who care about them, who are going to, keep them safe while they're kind of going through this really hard time in their life. And so that might have a more emotional pull or motivator for those visitors. Then looking at the subhead and value proposition, using top rated is where it says right here, top rated inpatient drug and alcohol treatment center. It's a little bit vague and may not have a lot of meaning for visitors without the social context and the hero about actual ratings. So what makes it top rated? The benefits in the sentence format are a little bit hard to scan. So here it has featuring on-site medical detox, personalized treatment planning, one-on-one counseling by master level clinicians, and holistic evidence-based treatment program. So in the sentence format, it may be harder to scan. So I would actually recommend breaking those down into bullets. So it'll be easier for visitors to scan through that content and quickly see the benefits that are being offered. My recommendation as a whole would be to update or test this to get personalized accredited treatment in Oregon to help you treat your loved one, reclaim their life from addiction. And then I would actually combine some of those features. So medical, detox, and inpatient care tailored to individual needs, covered by most insurance plans and quick approval times, 24/7 admissions help is just a call away. So 3 benefits that can quickly describe what is the service that they're going to be getting when going to the rehab center. Next, looking at the CTA copy. So we have verify insurance up here, call for help here. Throughout the page, though, I do see that there are some inconsistencies. And maintaining that consistency is important as it helps enhance clarity, improves the user experience, and reduces the cognitive load for visitors, all of which may boost conversion rates. So I would recommend anything that has the same action, that those use the same language and the same styling. Additionally, on desktop devices, the phone number to call for immediate assistance isn't visible until the visitor reaches further down the page, which is about here. So I would recommend really creating a different desktop and mobile experience where on desktop devices, the number is always visible. That way they can pick up their phone if they're viewing it on a desktop device and easily call that number. I would also test adding a post CTA to the form submission down here. That has insurance may cover up to 100% of treatment. It's just an additional motivators for visitors to fill out the form, kind of reaffirming that there is a chance that you could get 100% coverage for treatment. Looking at social proof on the page, so they do have a lot of great testimonials further down here, but I would test moving those higher on the page to try and increase the motivation for visitors using social proof. It's always nice to see people who've been through similar experiences have positive results, and so that might be something that helps increase the motivation as well. Finally, looking at the visual hierarchy on the page. So right now the text is overlaid on the image, which makes it a little bit hard to read. So I would recommend placing this on a solid color background in order to increase the legibility. I would also test moving this form that is anchored to throughout the page into the hero. This will reduce the number of clicks that it takes for visitors to reach the form, and then it'll also give it a higher priority in the visual hierarchy on the page. Finally, the hero, the verify your insurance uses a solid color green button, while the rest of the page uses a ghost button. Ghost buttons are often used to indicate a secondary CTA because they're less prominent on the page. So I would, clearly determine what the priority goal is and use a solid state for that, and then use a ghost button for the secondary goal on the page. So those are just a few quick recommendations for testing on here. Now, moving on to our second page, which is InstaPatient from Joy MD. So working through the same thing, let me go ahead and scroll down the page so everyone can take a look. All right, then returning to the top. So again, working through those 5 tactics that we discussed. The first thing, headline clarity. I would recommend testing a value-driven headline. So right now, the headline on the page says the only sales-first platform built for medical aesthetics. So it's a bit vague in defining the value for the visitor, and it doesn't offer immediate clarity. I would remove the period on the end just for it being a headline, but 2 alternatives I would recommend testing. One is boost revenue with the only sales first platform for aesthetic practices. So again, this showcases the value of what are they going to get for using this program, a boost in their revenue. The next is more towards a feature placement. So I'm pulling it from what they state down here in their subhead. So turn your treatment menu into a shoppable, always open storefront. I would test in tandem, kind of switching those out, using one as a headline and the next as your subhead, and then vice versa. Test using the other one as the headline and the secondary one as the subhead. So both items that kind of give a little bit more clarity into what this product is and the benefit that it provides to the visitors. Next, looking at the subhead and value proposition, really the content of the subhead is good. However, it could be improved by placing it into scannable bullets and detailing the benefits a little bit more. So for this example, this would say InstaPatient turns your treatment menu into a shoppable, always open storefront. And then turning these into bullets. So let patients book and pay online anytime, boost revenue with prepay, upsells, and flexible financing, sell 24/7 even when your team is offline. So again, turning those into scannable bullets will just make it easier for visitors to read through the content and see what the benefits are a little bit faster. Finally, transitioning over to the CTA copy. So one of the first items I noticed, so book is considered a very committal CTA. They have the book a demo here and here. I would test a little bit of a softer push, such as schedule, just to see if that's a little bit more motivating for visitors when they come to this landing page. I would also test a first-person CTA for the book a demo. So instead of book a demo, you could say book my demo, schedule my demo. And again, that's because first-person CTAs, example, I, me, my, often boost conversion rates. They personalize the message, increase engagement, and give users that sense of ownership over their decision. Next, looking at social proof. So I love seeing the star ratings up here in the hero. They're a great element of social proof. So I would recommend keeping these close to the CTA, or if they add a directional CTA, having it somewhere near the form or the directional CTA on the page. The one item is these logos are a little bit small. So I would kind of increase them. So, coming in a little bit down, sorry. These logos down here are a little bit small and hard to read. So I would increase the size of them so it's easier for visitors to see them more clearly. And then I would also test moving these up on the page. So just below the hero, that will just give a additional element of social proof in addition to these star ratings, and it may increase that motivation. I would also test featuring these logos alongside the testimonials further down the page. So test moving this up or moving those down. That way you kind of have them all in a general area where you can showcase the different customers that they work with and add the context of the actual testimonials provided by those customers. Finally, moving back up to the hero, one area that I would continue to look at is the styles on the CTAs. Again, it's a little bit inconsistent. So up here we have book a demo using a white solid color, and then down here we have it using more of a ghost button. I like that it's sticky. That would indicate that it is a priority goal, but this one is also using a higher weight. So it's a little confusing visually to say, okay, is the goal for them to book a demo or is it for them to request more information? So I would update the stylings on these to be consistent to make sure that priority action has the highest visibility on the page. Otherwise, both of these pages do a great job by including all the elements of, social proof, having the visual hierarchy on there, the different elements to help improve conversions. But these are just some areas I would initially recommend testing when going throughout the page through this heuristic analysis. But now I want to go ahead and open the floor up to a few questions. So if you want to go ahead and submit your questions in the Q&A box, I am happy to answer those for you.
Yeah, so a few came in while you were presenting, Michelle, so I'll kick off with the first one to you. So Michelle, could you share what tool you recommend for blurring images?
Yeah, so I actually use Canva Blur. It's a free tool, so you can take a screenshot of your hero or whatever section on the page you want to focus on. And then once you upload it, then you can select whole image and you can blur to about 40% to see what stands out the most.
Nice. Now for the next one, do you recommend adding emojis to the headline or subheadline?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think there's not a recommend to do or do not. It really depends on your target audience and kind of the brand tone that you're going for, right? So emojis are really targeted more towards younger generations. So if you're targeting like a younger generation, I would say go for it. Like they love emojis, they put emojis and everything. Which I say they, which totally told you that I'm not young. But also depending on your brand. So because emojis are a little bit cartoony, if you're going for more of a luxury feel for your brand or more of a serious note, in that case, I would probably leave the emojis out. But in the end, it is something like worth testing because emojis do grab attention. and they might help with increasing that motivation.
Sounds good. Thanks, Michelle. One more. In terms of metrics, so what metrics should we look at inside analytics to determine performance or where to focus?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it depends on your analytics platform. I always recommend using some sort of heat mapping. So Instapage has heat maps available dependent on which plan you're on. But that really gives you a good indicator of where visitors are clicking, and then also where they're falling off on your page. So if you can see where they're clicking or where they're not clicking, then you know areas that you need to build focus. And then looking at scroll maps, I like to determine if they're falling off at a certain point and there's not a CTA there, maybe that's an area where I need to add a CTA, or I can add a scroll depth pop-up to kind of grab their attention as an additional motivator to push them towards that goal. Additionally, if you have event tracking on your landing pages, looking inside of your analytics platform, so something like Google Analytics, you can see what elements they're clicking on as well, or even looking in that full funnel flow to see where visitors are falling off in the funnel, and that will help you determine which pages you should focus on first in terms of increasing or testing on those.
Thanks, Michelle. We did get one more come in around animations on landing pages. I think this may be a good one to talk about, maybe the professional services side and how you guys have maybe helped someone achieve this.
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, animations are not currently natively available inside of Instapage, but through professional services, we can offer some custom coding that will allow you to add different animations. What I do always recommend, if you have requests like that, to submit them through support, like, hey, I'd really love to see this feature. Everything gets submitted back to our product team. And the more people that we have asking for those, the higher they go in the priority list. So I'm going to definitely add a note after this for the product team. But yeah, that's something maybe coming down the road, but we'll have to wait and find out for that.
Thanks, Michelle. I'll give it a couple more seconds. If any last minute questions, if not, you're good to close it out.
Okay. Should I do a countdown? 10,
Yep, count it
9,
down.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Well, again, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Just a quick recap. The 5 areas that we reviewed to begin testing are headline clarity, subheadline and value proposition, CTA copy, the social proof type and placement, and then the layout and visual hierarchy. They're testworthy because they directly impact clarity, trust, and motivation, 3 of the biggest factors behind conversion. If you're interested in learning more about any of the items that we discussed today, or if you want to learn more about seeing how Instapage can help you reach your goals and improving your landing page performance, please feel free to schedule a demo by visiting bit.ly/IPCRO5. Or if you're already a customer, please reach out to your CSM or support to learn more about the tools that are available to you. Finally, I just want to give a quick plug. We'll be sending out a video recording of today's webinar via email early next week, but we have another fantastic webinar coming up in partnership with Benchmark Email, where we'll be discussing how smart emails and intentional landing pages can work together to drive engagement. So keep an eye out for an email with registration details if you're interested in attending and learning more. And again, thank you everyone for coming. Have a great rest of your day and happy testing and optimizing.